Okay, let's see if we can weld this into place. You're going to notice that I'm going to be skipping a bit, and that's because there's a gap, and you want to let the bead cool a little bit, just enough to kind of solidify before you go on to the next one. Now, this upper part probably you're not going to skip so much. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to mount this onto that metal frame. I'm going to bring the metal frame around so you can see it. So this wants to kind of sit up on top of the frame like this. So how to do that, you ask? Well, you know, the only thing to do is just kind of one step in front of the other. I've cut a piece of plate here, and it's a 1/4 inch. And I've marked my center hole because we have to definitely cut out a pretty good sized center hole to get past this shaft and get down to these mounting bolts. And then once we get down to the mounting bolts, then I'll be able to find where my mounting holes are and then drill those holes out and bring this piece down. Now it looks to me like it's going to fit just about right on the mounting. Can you see that? Yeah, just right there. This this connection here and this connection here go pretty much straight across right where this little rubber seal is, and that we can take off or leave it on, doesn't really matter. So for the moment, take off our, and we'll go for the mounting hole, which is, and we want to be up just a little bit higher. Okay, so basically we're going to just drill some random holes for the moment. And because I have sharp edges here, I am going to take it over and knock these sharp edges off before I cut myself. And since our hole is going to be pretty much the same place every time, let's go ahead and clamp this down. That way we don't have any problems with it getting away from us and cutting. All right, so first hole drilled, and we can just keep going up from there. Second one's good. Now third one, we're going to have to slow down the speed. And looks like we're going to have to drop the table down a little bit too. Slow down our speed. That's better. before we go any further, I think it's a good idea to figure out where our drill bit is going to land, so we don't take out half of our table. Beautifully. No problem. Well, this little drill press probably isn't going to handle it, I can tell. So maybe we need to go out to the mill where we're going to get some strength. All right, let's go to the mill. So we brought a couple of toe clamps in here and took them to their furthest extent. I mean, we are in ultra combination here, but it seems to be working. And I think we're going to get a hold down. Not as much as I want. But a bit of hold down just the same. Okay, so now we find our collet that's going to fit. I don't know, today's one of those days where things keep going wrong. This is the camera going wrong day. My chip was filled up here a minute ago, so we didn't get a chance to see the hole being drilled. I know you have seen holes being drilled before, so we're not going to worry too much about it. Now, that hole sits right on there nicely. We flip this over. We can locate our holes. But first we've got a little bit of slop there, which is what I wanted. So we need to get something in there to kind of take up the space and make sure it stays fairly centered. Let's see if we can find something that might work there. I had a sleeve here. Nope, it's too big. Well, one thing we can do is put the rubber back in place, and that's too big too. All right, well, I think I know what we can do. Let's go rotate around here, and we're going to get back to the vise. We're going to bring this up, drop it in the vise. The whole thing will sit fairly well. Then we just kind of fake it and find a general center and mark our holes. So, and I think because things are a little floppy, I think what I want to do is mark one hole, drill it, put a bolt in it, get it set up, and then mark the second hole and then the third hole later. So that's going to take a minute or two. Let's see what we can come up with. All right, so we put this back in place. We find some kind of fake it center. I'd say right about there. we put our center or transfer punch in, punch a hole or punch a divot, and since it's hard to see, I'm going to get a pen and mark it. Going to go over to the drill and drill this. I'll be back. Okay, we're going to mark our second hole here. And then take that over and drill it. And we probably have to take this back apart in order to be able, well, actually, maybe no, it'll be more of a pain. We will be back. Okay, we got our second bolt in, and now we're going to go for our third. But notice that the third, it's got a little spacer in there, so we're going to need to take up that space. It looks like about 5/16 maybe. So we might just put a half a dozen washers in there, and everybody will be happy. But got to do that before we move forward. Okay, so we've got our platform bolted up. We've got it sitting against the frame. Right now it's sitting against the frame, but I need to have enough room to be able to take this out if need be. So I'm going to slide just a little piece of wood back in behind that. And that's going to give me the room to, if someone ever has to unbolt this, that this will clear the plate. Okay. So then we come in with something. We need to catch this somehow. That's just a little too close. I think we need something right here. So our action is going to go this way, which means we need to keep a clearance for that, and the wheel stays within our range here, so that's no problem. But we need to keep a clearance there. So I would think something like that, welded on top of that, and that would keep it off to the side just enough to where we would have it right. So let's see what we've got materials wise, and we'll play with that. Okay, so we've got to figure out how far from here to here we want our piece to be. So I've put a 90 degrees there, and then I'm going to do a 90 degree right here, and then I'm going to measure down to the and we're looking at 3 3/8, or is that 3 1/4? 3 1/4. Okay, so 3 1/4 is going to get us right to the edge of this piece of steel, which is pretty much what we want. All right, and I'm going to cut a couple of pieces and be right back. Because my saw is not cutting straight, and I really want this part, this connection, to be fairly straight, because it's the part that's going to show, at least to my customer. So I'm going to put it in the, I put it in the mill. I've set it up at 45 degrees, and I'm cutting this so that we have at least a square edge to work from. We're almost there. Yeah, that's good. So I got one more cut to make and we're home. Okay, we've welded our box together, at least our junction. We're going to put that over the top here, and it looks like it's hitting just about right. And we'll bring this back just a bit. And that'll give us exactly what we need. Now I can come in and weld this plate to this, and then all I need to do is come in and do a little support piece from here over to here, and that'll hold the plate in place. So that's done. We just need to go to the next step. And we'll be doing that tomorrow because it's noon and lunchtime. Okay, so we've got our frame and we've got our support. And at this point, what we want to do is we want to get this motor up here and in place so that so we can weld it to our frame here and still have the motor rotate around. And I think we've got that. We may have to take a little bit off of this this bolt here to clear the cap, but I think we're in pretty good shape. Yeah, that should do the trick. So I think what we might do is just go ahead and weld this thing in place so we can see exactly where we want it to be, and allowing enough space for it to for everything to slip around. But in order to do that, I think what I want to do is put a spacer here so I have something to kind of rest on. And that might actually be enough of a spacer. Oops, goes the other way. Let's try it. Yeah, this way. That looks pretty good. We'll be we'll have to, I think what we're going to do is we're just going to tack it in place and then adjust it back and forth and up and down until we get it just right, and then go ahead and do a final full weld. But it's as we tack that too, let's see what we've got here. Yeah, I think there's plenty of room. We might even just take it up a little further. Let's see if we can just put just a little bit more space in between these. Well, I'm seeing now that this plate, I don't know if you can see it, but look at this plate. It's down at an angle, so I think maybe we need to put some more spacers in that end over there just to get this thing to sit up square. Yeah, it's really angled. Okay, so instead of stacking up a big pile of washers and fighting them, I went ahead and turned down a little piece of plug here, and we can slide that in, and looks like it's going to fit just fine. I've got the bolt somewhere. Slide the bolt in. Should go fine. It's going to hit the top of that, but that's not a problem. Looks like we're going to have to take just saw a little bit off. Let's see how much we need to saw off. I'd say right about there. Take that over to the bandsaw and whip it off. Be right back. We've got our motor mounted. We welded it in place over here, and it looks like it's going to be pretty solid without a problem. Now the next thing we need to do is put the rotator in, and I can see already that the rotator is going to hit these two bolts down below here. Can you see that? Pretty much. Well, you can see that one much easier. Let's see, let's move this over just a bit. There it is. So the bolts, the nut will hit this one here, not so much this one, but I think what I'm going to do, and it's probably going to be easier just to take a regular hand hacksaw, which I haven't used in years, and go ahead and saw those two off. And we'll do a little bit of that and see how it comes out. I think we can break it off at this point. There we go. Okay. So now let's bring this back up to somewhat level. In fact, probably a good idea just to bring it all the way to level. And we're going to drop our pin in, and it looks like we've got just enough, just barely enough room for that nut to fit on there, as soon as I can find the nut. I think what I'm going to do is take this wheel off. To put the nut on. I know it's way too much wrench for such a small nut, but at the same time, who's counting? All we're trying to do is get it snug down. Alright, and that's tightened up. And this is our nice thing about this is it's got a little bit of slip to it. Okay, and that brings us all the way to this point. And this is going to sit right there. And that is too high. So what we need to do is we need to bring our wheel down a little bit. In order to do that, we can kind of come in and take out more of that 10-degree taper so that this thing sits lower on the shaft. And you know, just one of those adjustments that you have to make in order to get the thing to work right. So we'll take it over to the lathe and do that.